Doncic has dropped some serious weight already this offseason. The internet says it'll make him faster, more agile. But what if I told you it might actually hurt the footwork responsible for the most lethal parts of his game? Because if you think losing weight automatically makes you move better, Luka's game proves almost the exact opposite in his case.
Maybe, but he's been injured because of that weight. So there's a definitive argument to say it's probably better he's lost the weight.
And maybe in your case too. So before his recent weight loss, Luka came in about 6'6" and weighed approximately 230 pounds, at least according to the NBA. And this particular frame was subject of, let's say, debate around the internet and in his former team's front office. But whatever you think about it, you can't deny the kind of mastery he has in his body.
I don't care if he's like Ant-Man said, Anthony Edwards said with Luka, I don't care if you weigh 300 pounds. If you're putting up 32 points on average, you're fine in my book.
Body composition, it's a huge part of that puzzle. Plus, you know, the same people calling him the Hamburglar are also the same people.
These people that are calling him that, they've got better things to do with Zion Williamson. Like, go mess with Zion. Don't mess with Luka. At least Luka's available.
Who throw their backs out sneezing. So there's also that. Listen, no one has ever accused Luka of being a speed demon. He really has just mastered the art of using his body mass to control and dominate space, absorb contact, and key in this, maintain balance, because none of this stuff he does matters if he's off axis when he shoots and the ball bricks off the rim. His size allowed him to bully defenders, like creating separation, not through quickness, but through what I call, let's say, strategic.
He may have lost some body fat, but in terms of muscle, you can make that up and still have the same weight. Like, if it's a 15-pound difference, I don't think it'll be that drastic. I think the muscle mass can help.
Physicality. The best example of the benefits of his particular body composition is his signature move, the step-back jumper. That move requires a sudden deceleration and a controlled backwards motion right afterwards. Luka's...
This is another thing I always say. This is something I hold against LeBron until the end of his career. He has no go-to signature shot. But Luka has that. Giannis has that. Jokic has that. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had that. Michael Jordan had that. Kobe had that. Like, LeBron's a top 3 player of all time. But in no way, shape, or form does he have a go-to shot. I feel like his game could have been even better if he just had a go-to shot.
Mass and where that mass is concentrated provided the necessary inertia to execute this move with real pinpoint accuracy, allowing him to create that space while also, like I keep saying, maintaining his balance. Because biomechanically, his center of mass is located more anterior and superior, or higher and forward, due to his upper body weight. This body composition allowed him to create and absorb contact, like I said, like a broken record, while also maintaining balance. And moreover, his ability to anchor himself, and by planting his lead foot firmly into the ground and using his body weight to resist defensive pressure, was a direct result of that frame, that physique. All right, I'm sure a lot of you will recognize this. This is the grip test ramp where I put shoes on it to test static grip. And when I test them, I put them on here and tilt it until the shoe breaks traction. This one's a particularly good one, but this will test what we call static grip. Now, this can standardize the grip for any shoe, any weight, because when you incline these on an inclined plane, the force of gravity and the force of friction cancel each other out. What you're left with is then just the static grip of the rubber. Now, that's on an inclined plane. But the key difference to when this floor is laying horizontal, right, like in a real game, is that when this floor is horizontal, how normal people use their basketball flooring, a concept called ground reactive forces comes into play. This is where we get what the dynamic grip of a shoe is, right? That's why I talk about static versus dynamic grip. But those ground reactive forces are now coming into play, which means
my cat's been sneezing a lot. I've dusted like crazy and cleaned up all the dust, but I just don't know what's making them sneeze. I wonder if it's because we're getting into that
throws all that force into the ground is giving him a crazy strong grip now, an anchor point. Think of it like a bowling ball in a lane versus a soccer ball. Which one is easier?
Yeah, that's a good backside step. Like the way he just he creates about 2 feet of spacing when he does that back shot.
To manipulate or knock off course. Then when he goes to step back, those ground reactive forces give him fantastic energy return, plus his high forward center of mass almost acts like a ballast when rocking backwards. That provides him almost like a near perfect balance point for a step back jumper, or just even a jumper after hitting the brakes and the defender is now still going downhill. In essence, I really don't think Luka's previous weight was a hindrance. It was a tool he utilized to dominate the court. His physicality allowed him to control the game's tempo and almost act like Doctor Strange, where he can kind of warp the physical space around him in a way where really only he had the advantage. So here's where things get interesting with the weight loss aspect of it. When Luka loses that trunk mass, especially around like the chest and abdomen, his center of mass is now going to shift posterior or backward and inferior or lower. Not a ton, but enough to matter. Now right off the bat, this sounds like a good thing, right? You better balance because the center of mass drops lower to the floor, almost like a toddler. More agility, less fatigue, right? A little more stamina. And sure, if you're standing still or, not playing basketball against some of the biggest people in the world, yeah, that's probably true. But here's the twist. In motion, that lower, more posterior center of mass.
He's right, but I disagree with him because the one thing you can respect about European players and their ability to play in this league this time is because they know the fundamentals. They're not overly athletic, crazy people. They're just fundamentally sound. Luka is going to be playing in the Eurobasket tournament for this year for his country. So he's going to have a whole 2 months between August and September to get that body to work with what he wants it to do. And he's going to figure it out. So what he's talking about is affecting his body and his ability to shoot. I don't think it'll be a problem. I think he's going to figure it out.
Actually changes how you...
Plus that step back he's going to do, I bet it'll be even quicker. I bet it's going to be freaking fast with his weight loss. He's going to do a quick step back that's so fast, defenders are going to be so thrown off, they won't be able to stop it.
You move. Luka might now decelerate faster, which sounds great, but faster isn't always better. Because if you can't control that deceleration, you don't plant, you actually start to drift. And in Luka's case, that drift could be the difference between a really smooth, controlled step back, a lot of anchoring, and an off-balance fade with no legs under it. Because like I just said, when he had more mass up top, his center of mass acted like a ballast. When he planted, the top half of his body resisted that backward motion. Now that weight is gone, there's just less resistance pulling him forward, so he might spring backward maybe a little bit too easily. It's like pulling back a slingshot without enough tension. And in terms of downhill braking power, it's not just about stopping, it's about controlling the stop, controlling where you stop, applying just enough force to get your body to stillness while still being aligned and upright and balanced, ready to shoot. If Luka's lighter frame can't generate the same downward force into the ground, he's not going to get the same ground reactive force.
He's got a whole 2 months of Euro basketball to do this. So Luka's going to be fine. Don't worry, folks. He's got this.
Coming back up, and more importantly, he's not going to be able to use mass to control the space and absorb contact, so he may get thrown even further back or just get thrown around side to side. Remember, it doesn't have to be much to matter. But in his case, the less input he has, the less input he's putting into the situation, the less mass he has to throw around, the less control he may also have. And with how accurate Luka is, I'm just not sure the trade-off for a bit of quickness is enough to offset that loss. But there is a way for him and you to have your cake and eat it too, and it all comes from our good friend, MJ. Now, Jordan had the opposite problem to Doncic. He was too small. He was getting bullied around.
Yes. I'm glad he brought this up. Those that are not aware, he got bullied by the Bad Boy Pistons in 2 playoffs and lost. And so, the same year when they got Pippen, Jordan spent a lot of time in the offseason bulking up. He changed his whole build, but he didn't lose any of his athleticism, and he got even better.
No one thought he could last in the league. They thought he was just going to get beat up. That's when he started talking to Tim Grover. And regardless of what you think about Tim Grover, if you have an opinion of him yet, I certainly don't agree with everything he says. And his book, Relentless, it's an entertaining read, put it that way. Whether or not you agree with it or you come away liking him more.
Every fitness instructor has their own ideology. player's going to do is going to seek out a fitness instructor that fits what they're looking for. He needed to bulk up. This guy was perfect for that. Just like Brady had the same trainer for nearly 18 years.
Or not liking him more afterwards. That's another discussion. He is a fascinating character. But, you know, he really was the one who identified in Jordan that Jordan needed more mass, especially upper body. And Jordan was saying, hey, you're crazy. I am going to lose my shot. I'm going to have too much mass, right? I'm going to throw my shot off.
Fun fact,
he was able to train him up and get him, number one, flexible enough to continue, you know, shooting the way he does and keeping his same proprioception balance point, but also gave him enough mass, right, to be able to take contact, right, and be able to get through that contact and finish through contact. And so it's interesting how, like, Jordan and Luka kind of have this Benjamin Button thing going on where they're kind of like meeting in the middle here. I think right now you're not seeing kind of the final revenge body of Luka Doncic, you know, for the Mavs. But I do think if he does continue to put on more muscle mass, and if he replaces the mass
Yeah, you can replace the fat with muscle. That's something Lamar Jackson did, but he was already scrawny to begin with. Lamar Jackson put on all that mass, and he got bulkier and stronger.
he had with muscle, then I think that's when you start to see like prime Luka Doncic. I think that's when you get the best of both worlds. So yeah, I think being the healthiest version of yourself is great, right? You're not lugging as much around, and if you're lugging that muscle around, that muscle is helping you, not harming you. So I think as long as Luka replenishes what he lost, then I think he's really got something. If he doesn't, and we go to skinny Luka, I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see, like, you know, just what his stats are. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I hope you are too. It's going to be interesting to see, like I said, what his final, like, revenge body is, and he deserves one for the way he got tossed out of. No, it was crazy.
Dallas made a huge mistake moving off Luka. First of all, I don't think the fans would hold it so much against Nico and the whole franchise if he had successfully, when moving off Luka, gotten a huge trade package for him. But he didn't do that. He got Anthony Davis and a first-round pick. That's it. That's all he got. And he got a more injury-prone player who got injured in the very first game against them. So, yeah.
But like I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you one of those players that kind of uses your frame to dominate space? And do you think, like, which version of Doncic do you think is going to be the most successful? You know, more mass?
I think Luka will be more better this year than he was the previous year, but I believe the following year he'll focus on adding more muscle and protein, and he'll get even better. Luka's at that perfect point where he can experiment to see what works for him, but I think this Luka is going to be electric and fast. Like, you cannot tell me he's not going to have a crazy step back that's so fast it's going to throw off defenders like, oh, frick. Like, we can't defend that.
Mavs Doncic, skinny Doncic, or more of like the MJ Doncic? I'd love to hear what you think down below. And if you are trying to emulate Luka's footwork and want to see all that goes into it, I do have a free gate pack at footdoctorzac.com. It's a free digital download that shows you all the features of Luka Doncic's footwork, how you can emulate it with yourself, what shoes I think are the best match for that. So I'll leave that link in the description below. And if you do want to see why Luka keeps wearing the Luka 1 versus more of his more recent shoes,
well, of course, he probably prefers it. It's just like when the NFL forced players to get new helmets, but Brady got grandfathered in for about like 3 years to wear the same helmet because, hey, I won Super Bowls with this helmet. I love this helmet. I don't want to change this up.
Or if you want to see how I think Jason Tatum actually tore his Achilles tendon and how you can avoid it in yourself.
Oh, bless you. Jeez, my cats have been sneezing like crazy. Both Hex and Jamie. Is there something in this freaking room? I'm dusting, I'm washing stuff. I don't understand why they're getting hit by all this sneezing. I'm beginning to think there's a higher pollen count going on right now.
Make sure to click into either of these videos up above and subscribe down below. I'll see you in one of those videos.
Oh, hey there everyone. If you enjoy this content, like and subscribe and comment down below. Thanks again.